Okay, so in Learning Objective 5, we're going to explore a little bit further some potential impacts from fiscal policy. And so this is what we call the multiplier and a potential crowding out effect. So I kind of alluded to this before when I talked about an increase in government spending. I said there's something potentially called a multiplier effect. And so I want us to kind of recall, if we go way back towards the beginning of the semester, in how we calculated real GDP, or how we calculated GDP, was GDP Y is equal to consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. Now, what I want us to realize is that when I increase government spending, there is an increase in income, or GDP, immediately. So let's say we increase G by $100. So without any other changes, right, GDP at that instant has gone up by $100, right? I have bought $100 worth of stuff. Our GDP is going to increase by $100 as a result of that. So now what happens from there, right? So remember, GDP is also income. So imagine that you own a business and you brew beer. Okay, so you make and bottle beer. And the government just bought $100 worth of your beer. Okay, so your income has now gone up by $100. And so what happens then when income goes up? Is that we're going to spend some of that income, right? So my consumption is going to increase. Let's say it increases by $80, right? So I get $100 from the government to buy my beer, and I'm going to spend $80 of that buying some stuff that I want. So I buy some restaurant meals, I buy some clothes, things for my house, etc., right? So my consumption goes up by 80. So notice then that I've caused a further increase in real GDP. So first it went up by 100, now it went up by 80, and now when I go and buy, let's say, some clothes, I've created $80 of income for someone else. So my income has gone up again, and consumption goes up, and this process is going to continue, right? So the initial increase in government spending creates an increase down the line of additional consumption, more income, additional consumption, income, etc. So the increase in G implies an increase in Y, which implies an increase in consumption, income, consumption, etc. And so at the end of the day, the initial $100 could potentially increase GDP by much more than $100. And so this is the idea of the multiplier effect, which is that the initial change in spending causes a multiplier or cascading effect of additional spending. So the way we're going to measure this, right, the multiplier is going to be the change in income at the end of all of this divided by the initial change in government spending. So another way to write this, by the way, is that the change in income we see is the multiplier times the change in government spending. Okay, so what we see here in this example is we know that government spending increases by 100. Let's say that real GDP Y increases by a total of $120. What is the value of the multiplier? Okay, well, the multiplier is the change in Y, which was 120, divided by the change in government spending, which was 100. So our multiplier is 1.2. That says for every extra dollar of government spending, we get an additional $1.2 in real GDP for each $1 increase in G, we get $1.2 in additional Y, or GDP. Right, so that's the idea of the multiplier effect. I'm just kind of quantified it here, right? So if I added up all the extra spending and income that we get, I get $120 after I increase government spending by 100. That's a multiplier of 1.2. And so that's the idea in theory, and is in some sense why you see fiscal policy advocated for in recessions. So I mean, if this multiplier idea is true, it's a pretty good deal, right? We could increase government spending by $100 and create a much larger increase in real GDP. So it's like the return on your investment of government spending could be relatively high, and that would make fiscal policy very appealing. You get more bang for your buck, so to speak. So one thing that we want to think about here is some potential other impacts that I haven't discussed yet, which is what we're going to cover next when we look at crowding out.